Hello everyone, Flexible here, and just as promised, I am back with another video. 4 months later. Yeah, gotta work on that one. But for now, I have a review to do. Before we begin, I want to go over the history of this series. You'll understand why as we go along. Puyo Puyo is a tile matching puzzle game created and developed by Compile, a Japanese video game development company. They don't exist anymore, and the IP is now owned by Sega, with Sonic Team being the developers for these games. The very first Puyo Puyo game, simply titled Puyo Puyo, is actually a spin-off game. The characters used for this game were taken from an ancient game called Mado Monogatari, which apparently translates to Sorcery Saga. These games are first-person dungeon crawler RPGs, so not relevant. Although it does explain certain design choices within the Puyo Puyo universe. The main character of the Puyo Puyo series is Arl, who is the main character from these games. The first Puyo Puyo game was released exclusively in Japan for the MSX2. N Famicom Disk System. Whatever the hell those are. The version of Puyo Puyo you're probably familiar with is actually the arcade version created after this version came out. It also came out only in Japan. The game was ported to many consoles, where eventually it became a bestseller on the Mega Drive version, so naturally a sequel was created. Puyo Puyo 2 is the second game in this series. The name is actually a pun. In Japanese, the katakana 2 is pronounced the same as the English number 2. This game was even more successful than the previous one, and is still the standard for competitive play today. It was also never localized. No official English version exists. Due to its insane success, this was now the series to be developed by Compile, the spin-off becoming the main series. Where have I heard that one before? Anyways, Puyo Puyo has many spin-off games, but I'll be focusing more on the mainline games. The next mainline game is called Puyo Puyo Sun. The name is another pun, but that's not important. What is important is that this game has also never been localized. No official English version of this game exists. The fourth game in the series is called Puyo Puyo N. This is the last mainline game developed by Compile before they filed for bankruptcy. And it was also never localized. So, to summarize, the first 4 mainline Puyo Puyo games have no official English version for us overseas fans. Starting to see the issue here? Something else to note, this is the last mainline game to have Arl as the main character. The first Puyo Puyo game to be localized is a spin-off game for the GBA, Puyo Pop. Puyo Pop is how Puyo Puyo was known in America for a little bit. This is the first game Sonic Team worked on, and the last game to have the original Mado Monogatari cast. After this, the games would start creating new characters. Puyo Puyo Fever is the next mainline game in the series. It features a brand new cast of characters with a new main character, Amity. It also sought to change the gameplay with several new mechanics, the main one being Fever Mode. These mechanics were incredibly contentious, dividing the Puyo Puyo community in half. To this day, there are 2 separate styles on playing Puyo Puyo. There is Puyo Puyo 2 mode and Puyo Puyo Fever mode. And good news! This game was also localized. Bad news, it was given an English dub. And this dub was done during the dark ages of English dubbing. So...
Now that was in poor taste. Letting that irritating Amity go on ahead. But we proper ladies never lose our composure. Calmly, coolly, always a step ahead of the game. Look out, Amity. I, Ravina, will bring sorrow to your tearful fate. Ha ha ha! Oh, la-ti-da!
Quite. Very well. By all means, so be it.
Exactly, precisely, Mordecai! Don't you know, friend? What
This isn't a proper review of Puyo Puyo Fever, but I can safely say this English dub is mierda. Unfortunately, Sega gave up on localizing the Puyo Puyo series after this failure. The next two mainline games, Puyo Puyo Fever 2 and Puyo Puyo 7, saw no English localization of any kind. The same is said for the many spin-off games released after Puyo Puyo Fever. Something else to note again, for Puyo Puyo 7, they reverted the gameplay systems back to Puyo Puyo 2's systems. They also introduced another new main character, Ringo. Puyo Puyo Tetris is the first time in over a decade that Sega gave the series another chance overseas. They also, thankfully, gave up on changing the name. It is now Puyo Puyo in both Japanese and English. The English dub had a lot of love and care put into it, getting a lot of professional and talented voice actors to voice these characters. I cannot speak on the translation itself, and I don't want to. The point here is that the amount of Puyo Puyo games that officially exist in English are very small. Technically, only 2 Puyo Puyo games can be experienced in English, a spin-off game for the GBA and one of the 2 Fever games. Puyo Pop Fever released on many platforms, so it is somewhat accessible. But this isn't a lot, and these are much older games. Puyo Puyo Tetris is basically a new IP to many people, and these characters have a long history behind them. So how does one introduce these characters for the first time? Thankfully, you don't. Remember when I said that the version of Puyo Puyo you're familiar with is the arcade version? Well, Puyo Puyo wasn't localized, but Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was. Kirby's Avalanche was. Puyo Puyo was, technically brought over to the States, but it was given a fresh coat of paint first. They removed all original characters and replaced them with recognizable characters while keeping the gameplay the same. They could do this because the characters don't matter. The original Puyo Puyo had an arcade-style story. There are 13 stages. Each stage has a character, and you beat that character to move on. For each stage, you get a quirky interaction with said character to give them a little bit of character. There wasn't a real story or deep and complex characters. Over the years, returning characters would get additional details to flesh out their personality, but they were always written in a way that you would quickly be introduced to them, understand what you needed to understand, then move on. So, despite the Puyo Puyo characters having a long history, you don't need to know it to enjoy this game. The arcade-style writing is also present in Puyo Puyo Tetris, so you can quickly get to know any and every character you meet and still enjoy the game. Certain characters do develop, but at the end of this journey, everyone forgets the events of this game, so it doesn't matter. Your enjoyment of the characters will be dependent on if you like the superficial aspects of each character introduced. Now then, let me ask you some questions. Do you like dancing? Do you like fish? Do you like dancing fish? Then oh boy do I have the character for you!
Baby old Skatadara's here to turn all your wishes to fishes. I got the swishes, oh so funkalicious, moving, grooving without stitches.
While your enjoyment of these characters will vary, I can safely say that the objectively best girl in the series is Draco Centaurus. And if you disagree, you are dumb and stupid and wrong and stupid and dumb and fat and ugly and stinky and... While most of the characters are one-off side characters, some are reoccurring, so I do have to talk about them. The majority of characters are returning Puyo Puyo characters, but there are many new Tetris characters. The 2 main characters of the story are Ringo and T. Ringo is the new main character introduced in Puyo Puyo 7, and is the main character for most of the spin-off games after it. For the English dub, she is voiced by the incredibly talented Cassandra Lee Morris. I have no issues with her performance. She's a high school girl of basically modern-day Japan, except that there are weird and silly things that are just commonplace, like a student who is half student, half bear, and half squirrel. For someone who is supposed to be the audience surrogate, she's given a surprising amount of character. She also serves as a sort of straight man to all the craziness that happens. Next up is T. T is the captain of the starship Tetra and a Tetris character. Tetris characters are new characters introduced in this game and are from the world of Tetris. T is voiced by the amazing Max Middleman, and once again, zero issues with his performance. He has a crew, which is a bunch of new Tetris characters. He also has a surprising amount of depth to his character, and has a whole character arc during the story. It's a shame it's all forgotten by the end, making it meaningless. T also serves as a sort of straight man to the craziness they experience. The story is rather simple. Ringo and T team up to unearth the mystery surrounding the strange events happening around them, such as colorful blocks and blobs falling out of the sky and causing chaos. The story is more of a tool to fuel the adventure instead of being the focus. Puyo Puyo Tetris is better described as an adventure, reminiscent of old Saturday morning shows. There are 7 chapters in this game, and in each chapter, we have an end goal. But the focus is on the misadventures we have along the way, not on the story established. Our main characters will regularly meet new characters on their journey. Afterwards, someone will contrive a reason for combat. Then, both characters will engage in said combat. And the reason doesn't always make sense. It really can be as stupid as, "You looked at me funny, let's battle!"
The time has come for me to clear my reputation by assaulting this young girl!
The gameplay is how battles work. The characters in-universe play Puyo Puyo or Tetris to battle. And, everything is very silly. This game does not take itself seriously. Even when the story gets serious, it still takes time to be silly and make fun of itself. In other words, don't question how or why they play Puyo Puyo / Tetris. They just do. In fact, this game relies on you not questioning things. Things just happen. Just because. Things don't make sense, but it makes sense that it doesn't make sense, so don't try to make sense of it. Understand? Just have fun. I think the gameplay is the reason most people will play this game, and there are 0 issues with the gameplay, contrary to what the competitive players will tell you. Unfortunately, I do have to touch upon that later. Anyway, in this game, you can play Puyo Puyo and / or Tetris against other people. And I'm not explaining Tetris. Everyone knows Tetris. As for Puyo Puyo, I'll let Ringo explain it.
We'll be fine. All you need to do is connect 4 Puyos of the same color. That's all. There's some other stuff like garbage Puyos and chains, but I'm sure you'll figure it all out. Easy peasy.
Just like with Tetris, Puyo Puyo is easy to understand, hard to master. And there are tutorials in-game to help you learn both Puyo Puyo and Tetris. So if you're a beginner, the game will help you learn about Puyo Puyo so you can have more fun. You play the modern version of Tetris with the super rotation system, and you play the Puyo Puyo 2 version of Puyo Puyo. Basically, you're playing the accepted standard for both games. Anywhere from 1 to 4 people can play either game, and the options available are next level. This game has an insane amount of content. Firstly, you can do endless mode to play alone for both Puyo Puyo and Tetris. Or you can do 1 vs 1, 3-person free-for-alls, or 4-person free-for-all matches. You can even split people into teams to have 1 vs 2 matches or 1 vs 3 matches. There is also the standard 2 vs 2 team matches. Splitting up people is very intuitive and easy, so you can easily do a free-for-all or teams match of any kind. Most importantly, you can mix and match the gameplay styles, so all 4 people could be Puyo Puyo, only 1 person could be Puyo Puyo, and 3 people Tetris. You choose the game that makes you the most comfortable in fighting opponents. You also pick a Puyo Puyo or Tetris character when playing either game. Characters aren't locked behind specific games, so you can choose a Tetris character to play either Puyo Puyo or Tetris. Same with Puyo Puyo characters. The characters have no impact on gameplay. They're an aesthetic that exists for calling out attack spells when you send out garbage to your opponents. And all of this is just for standard gameplay. There exists other modes you can play. Excluding mixing gameplay styles, all the previous customization options exist for these modes. First of all is swap mode, where you switch between Puyo Puyo and Tetris at set intervals. Then there is the Mierda fusion mode. where both Poyos and Tetraminos fall on the same board. Oh, I forgot to mention, Tetraminos are the names of the colored blocks in Tetris, and Poyos are the names of the colored blobs in Puyo Puyo. Then there's Party Mode, where you can clear items that randomly fall on your board to cause chaos. Lastly, there's Big Bang Mode, where you complete preset fields to build up garbage to launch at your foes. Any of these can be done with real humans or CPUs. And this is all for multiplayer modes. Single player also has modes you can play. Puyo Puyo and Tetris each have 3 side modes for one player. Puyo Puyo has the before mentioned Endless Mode, Fever Mode, which is just an endless version of Big Bang Mode, and Tiny Puyo Mode, which increases the size of the field to allow for more Puyo-ing. Tetris has Marathon Mode, which can be turned into Endless, Sprint Mode, and Ultra Mode, which is just score attack. As you can see, there is a lot of content to this game, and there's more stuff like a music player and profile customization that I didn't discuss. I really don't have any issues with the gameplay. But others... To briefly touch upon this, Puyo Puyo and Tetris are 2 different games. They were not balanced with the other game in mind. So, at the highest level in competitive play, Tetris beats Puyo Puyo 9.5 out of 10 times. But, in my opinion, this doesn't matter because there is a 99% chance you will never play at that level. So don't worry about it. Don't think of this as a competitive esport. Treat it like a party game and just have fun. Play what you want to play, how you want to play it. This game looks great. There are no problems with the resolution or frame rate. A consistent 900p 60 FPS. And the art style is just amazing. Puyo Puyo always had a bright and colorful color palette, and this game is no exception. But for this game though, I feel like they finally nailed down the character designs. In previous spin-offs, they always felt kinda squashed. But here, they feel perfectly proportioned. All the characters look great, from the colors to the apparel. And this sentiment extends to the backgrounds as well. They're all very stylized, and it looks great. For the music, I don't know the exact ratio of original compositions to remixes, but in my opinion, it doesn't matter. They're all fire, and that's what's important. The music is just as bright and energetic as the art style, consisting mostly of upbeat tracks. And for traditional versus matches, you can choose the music and background to play on. Just another layer of customization this game adds. This game is the perfect embodiment of, if it's not fun, why bother? It's fun. This game is just fun. It oozes fun, from the art to the music to the gameplay! I avoided using subjective terminology when talking about the story because I believe the story is also that. Fun. The story went for a very specific style, and within that context, it is a well-executed story that is a lot of fun. Is it good? If you like this style of storytelling, you'll enjoy the story mode, and that is what matters. If not, that's okay. The story isn't the focus anyway. I give Puyo Puyo Tetris the absolutely meaningless score of 8 out of 10. This is a great game. But what do you think? Is the story actually terrible? Is the gameplay not great? Who is the best character? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, what was it? Hold on. Okay, right here. Hit the like button. I think it helps out or something. Then, yeah, right here. Subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter or something. Anyway. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. And remember to stay flexible.